has been my pleasure this year to be working with Erika in a long-time project that she's been doing for over 10 years in her publishing of an extraordinary resource for every home. It is the Nourish Me Kitchen project, and it is so far beyond a cookbook resource for the kitchen. Is really an encyclopedia of the intersection between human health and the nutrition that nurtures us into our full potential. And there she is. We got it.
Ah, thanks for your patience.
It's good to be with you, Erika. So glad to have you on here. And
Thank you so much.
giving the audience a bit of an overview here of kind of where I've been on my journey. Nutrition and nurture, and a little bit of background on this project that I've had the blessing of collaborating with in a very small way towards the end of your 10-year journey with this massive tome of work that you've created. Please give us a little bit of background on your own training, your own journey into doctoring, and then how that has led you to this subject of nourishment and what's come through the Nourish Me Kitchen here.
Thank you. Thanks for this privilege. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming through okay? Because I can move. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got you pretty good right now.
Okay. So my journey to this moment, 26 years ago, I started my studies in naturopathic medicine in Portland, Oregon. I added on a master's in Chinese medicine because I found it to be actually a truly holistic health form that was different than our Western reductionistic approach. And I combined the two in a lively marriage of functional medicine that I have the honor of practicing every day in Portland. And my journey into this book set started about 15 years ago when I discovered there really wasn't a one-stop shop or resource for functional medicine and cooking and taking good care of yourself. So I started writing a cookbook. It spread into much more than that because I realized people needed to understand the why behind what they were doing, and they needed to feel inspired. And so that's what I set out to do many years ago. I didn't know it would take me nearly 2 decades, but anything that's really worthwhile, I think, is worth waiting for and is worth finding its organic path to completion.
Fantastic. Yes, and as I page through those books, there's a sense of passion in there that's evident. What comes through in my own life is that I think I was the first patient that really got healed through my own clinic, and that was different than my journey in academia, where I think I actually suffered more exhaustion than anybody else I connected with through my clinics in the allopathic model. So it was a long learning, and that it was my health that would make me capable of being a mirror to others on their healing journey. And it wasn't until I began my own health and healing journey and my own rekindling of relationship back towards nature that I began to have, I think, improved efficacy and certainly improved joy and nourishment in my medical practice. And I can feel that for you as well. I think that once you give us a little bit of what that's felt like to you as you've gone from kind of that more structural, functional relationship, maybe kind of that hierarchical relationship back to client-patient relationship, and to where you are now.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, hearing you talk about your own journey reminds me of my journey, which started quite young when my dad had pretty severe cardiovascular disease with a widowmaker heart attack when I was 8 years old. And I think that started to orient our whole family towards a different model of healthcare, really taking health into our own hands. Because, as you know, the allopathic model is kind of a wait and see or meet to treat model. You have to meet certain criteria in order to be treated. And my mom taught us by modeling that you have to take things into your own hands. And so I learned at an early age to evaluate all aspects of healthcare, what was available to us, what was perhaps being done in different countries, and how if we have agency in our healthcare, that's when we actually thrive. And when we take care of ourselves on a daily basis, that's when we're going to reach a level of not just surviving, but feeling good and working towards our longevity. So my journey has both been personal within my own body and within my family, and discovering the limitations of modern medicine, especially in how we're not necessarily given the power to take care of ourselves. It seems that we're taught that our doctors have the power to tell us what to do and what would be appropriate. And I learned at an early age that we have to actually step into that role. And that's how I have lived to feel so good, is because I step into that role every day.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that we're all feeling this in this 2023, and we're seeing the breakdown in infrastructure in our country, in the United States at least. It's becoming very evident that we have a deep recession that is really symptomatic of a much deeper wound that we have in this country, which is a mindset of kind of and extraction that has destroyed our ecosystem within our country, as well as the ethnic diversity and wellness of our continent. We've destroyed
Mm-hmm.
625 nations over a few hundred years and have basically practiced a genocide to the tune of 97% of our indigenous culture on this continent gone. And simultaneous to that, I think the colonial movement out of Europe became disconnected from its own memory of its own connection to land and its own indigenous reality. So it was this two-pronged divorce and destruction of our connection to land that has so undermined the nourishment of our peoples. When colonialism landed at the beginning of the 1500s in force, and then expanding through the next couple hundred years, there was 100 million people in North America living in a more complex agricultural system than had existed in Europe. And so the belief that there was some sort of primitive culture here is just completely backwards. The advancement of agricultural technologies and understanding of nourishment, biodiversity on the plate that was experienced by the typical indigenous culture here in North America led to a deep health that was being experienced, a robust health and vitality within the peoples that was fundamentally failing in the Europeans by the time they came across the ocean. And that destruction of the European nutrient base had spawned, massive cataclysmic events, the plague and tuberculosis and cholera and all of these massive disproportionate or disease relationships back to the ecosystem and back to the microbiome was very rampant within the European setting. And so instead of fixing the relationship to Earth there was this diseased relationship that was exported in colonialism to every other continent of the world. And now we see health and nutrition dying out globally. I spent times, as you have, in other cultures around the world, watching this collapse of relationship back to earth and land. And so as you've done this project, can you give us a sense of what that journey has perhaps felt like for you in rediscovering your relationship to earth, your relationship to your own indigenous connection to land, your own indigenous awareness of being human on a planet, and the joy that you've shared with me in little texts that we send back and forth and over time of your adventures and everything else? What are some of what's the color of that reconnection to culture at that deeper level of indigenous reality?
Mm-hmm. I like to keep the perspective that I'm a member of the global family, and try to remind myself that in every way that I can. So whether it's through travel or experiencing food from around the world, or understanding the medicine around the world and ancestral medicine traditions, we have so much knowledge that we're ignoring because we think that we've hit some pinnacle of science that has superseded everything that has come before us. But if we recognize that people have been living and thriving on this planet for thousands of years before us, and we try to understand their knowledge and how they interacted with their environment, there's so much wisdom there. And so in my studies and in writing these books, I tried to glean that understanding from really wisdom around the world. What did our ancestors do, even in this country? What did people do around the world to take care of modern concerns? We've been dealing with coughs and belly aches and headaches since the beginning of time. What did we used to do? We used to eat roots and plants. We used to get in the ocean and lay in the sunshine and drink from the streams. So how do we bring that understanding and that relationship to nature into the present? And that actually was a goal of mine, to weave in that information, to of course honor the science of this moment, but also the wisdom of the eons before this moment. And personally, the way that I connect to that is I have a deep relationship with Mother Nature. I know that when I am outside, when I am in the trees, I get to be outside right now. I'm in South Florida, by the way, you can tell, not in the Pacific Northwest at the moment. But I have started to recognize the resonance of my body with that environment, and how my body starts to feel like it's home. And while that wasn't part of my training per se, and really wasn't part of my experience growing up, I grew up in a suburb outside of Philadelphia. I really didn't experience the dirt. I didn't experience changes in temperature. We had a very controlled environment. And when I started to push that boundary of the outside and the inside, and started to experience what it was like to be close to nature, I recognized something shift in myself. And that recognition comes back again and again, especially when I'm having a hard time. During the beginning of COVID, when I didn't know really what to do or how to think about anything, I just kept returning to the trees. I kept walking in the forest, because in the forest, everything makes sense. You see the cycles and the patterns of life, and all of a sudden your life is in context with all of it. And you know that what's happening right now, it makes sense on some scale. And because we're made of the same elements, I think it creates a grounding force. And it actually does scientifically create a grounding force to be with the biomagnetism and the energy of the earth. So just being imbued in that environment starts to shift our environment to sort of ground us into a level. So I hope that message does come through in my writing, because I'm really trying to get people to connect with that, to hold an apple and to see the tree that it grew on, to feel the energy of that, to honor the path that it took to get to their door. And when they bite into that apple, to feel the aliveness and the vitality that it provides for them. And if we start to have that connection with everything we eat and our relationships, we reconnect to our planet, we reconnect to everything around us. It's deeply healing in a way that goes beyond the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber contained in that food, or the interaction between you and another person. So thank you for that question. It's such a beautiful one. And what I would encourage all of our viewers is to ask yourself that question too. How are you connecting with nature? How are you connecting with culture? And how are you continuing to bring the past into the present, and nature into your body and into your home and into your life?
It's fantastic. I feel like something that aches within me at this point in my life is just the missing of grandparents. I miss my grandparents who have all passed away now, and so appreciate the 90 plus years that so many of them lived too, so that I got to know my grandparents and great grandparents over my lifetime. And I feel like this book is a bit of a reconnection to that grandparent energy in the kitchen. Traditionally, we cooked the recipes of our grandmother not because they were even written down, but because we were with her, and it was that direct experiential learning of recipes rather than cookbooks that were the art and tradition within the kitchen. And that's been fundamentally lost over the last 150 years, and has certainly been more deeply lost in the last 25 or 50 years. So I'm recognizing that your book is one of those pathways to reconnect to that cultural and kind of spiritual connection to the food that defines us. And it's no understatement, as we all probably on this call understand, that what we eat is what we become. And it is a pretty horrific food scene out there in general regarding the chemical exposure we all get through our food system, the lack of nutrient density in the soils, and therefore in the foods that we consume. And for that, we lack the medicine within our food. And so what are some of the ways in which you are working to get nutrient density back into the home through the cookbook project.
Yes. So my book set. So book one is a functional medicine guide to living, and book two is a cookbook with 300 recipes. And my goal with every single recipe was to look at it and ask, okay, a is this a practical recipe, and is it nutrient dense, and does it taste good? So that's what every recipe had to qualify as. And nutrient density is really about making sure that every ingredient counts, every calorie counts. Because our soil is so deplete of nutrition, we have to work hard. We have to work really hard to get enough nutrition through our food. And that might mean going to bigger levels, like adding superfoods to your smoothies and juicing and really working to get that nutrient density. If you choose organic or transitional foods, you're going to get more nutrition in your food. The soil is going to be richer. It's going to have more minerals and vitamins in it. And nutrient density means looking at the whole day and not, not maybe putting yourself down if you had a piece of toast with peanut butter for breakfast and you feel bad about yourself. Don't worry about it. You'll make it up in lunch and dinner. Add in veggies everywhere you can. If you're making a smoothie, put in a handful of kale or spinach in there. If you're making eggs or beans and rice, put a bed of lettuce underneath. There are a lot of ways to add nutrition in, and I always like to look at my plate as, okay, is it, a good 70% of it colorful because of veggies, and then you think about your protein and your fat and your carbs after that. So nutrient density means plant kingdom first. Just fill your plate with vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, that sort of thing. And then you can think about adding protein and your starches on the side of that, and really being intentional about it. It won't happen by accident. You're not going to get a nutrient dense diet if you just follow the mainstream protocols of eating or restaurant food. You're not going to get there. So you have to start evaluating your meals and look at your plate and ask yourself, could I add more veggies in here? Could I do purple cabbage as the holder for my salmon salad instead of 2 slices of bread? Where can you add in more vegetables? And I weave that in through the book. I'm always trying to, I don't say sneak, but encourage and inspire people to add those nutrient dense rich foods into their diet.
Yeah, beautiful. For all of you, listening in, many of you are aware of the work we've been doing in our biomedical lab over the last 15 years, but the interesting journey that we're taking is now in the delivery of nutrients and understanding how nutrients get from the plate into the human body. And it's a really interesting story that really tells us about the importance of our direct relationship with soil. And so our dietary supplements are soil extracts from ancient fossil soils that had nutrient density and metabolism of biodiversity that we still don't have on this planet rematched. So the deepest, richest soils of the earth. And when we take that nutrient intelligence and that metabolic intelligence out of that soil and we put that into human systems, we see the delivery of nutrients on the plate get into the body more vigorously. And this is critical, I believe, in an era where so many of our ingredients, especially this time of year, are farmed thousands of kilometers from our plate, often picked unripe, ripened under ethylene gas during transit, and then ends up on a grocery store shelf, so far divorced from the soil. And then the soils that it was born in were nutrient deficient to begin with. And so in that journey, we're finding that to get the turmeric that's maybe in your recipe from your grandmother isn't getting into the human body, even though it may be on the plate. And so this is an interesting time period of the year because much of the fruits and vegetables are either coming from that great distance or grown hydroponically, i.e. never touch the soil and lacking this intelligence. So what we've been showing is that if you just start to think of the soil as an ingredient in your food, you can actually radically increase the bioavailability of that eating from the rainbow that Erika was just describing there. And so we actually just launched a smoothie at Erewhon in California with this ingredient in there, Ion Dietary Supplement, or Ion Gut Health as an ingredient in these high-dollar, high-nutrient-dense smoothies. We can get that massive boost of nutrient delivery through adding back the soil. And so that soil extract in Ion Gut Health has been showing us a 3,000-fold in nutrient delivery into the body. And so if somebody consumes, for example, a liposomal turmeric, there's 0 detectable in their urine or maybe 1 or 2 parts per billion detectable in their urine half an hour later. Whereas if they add the ingredient of the soil system and that metabolic intelligence from the microbiome, we're seeing 3,000 nanograms per milliliter of urine of turmeric just 30 minutes later. So logarithms of increase in it by reconnecting yourself to soil systems. And so it's something for us to think about is the plate is the beginning of the journey, but also you got to find yourself back to soil systems. And this is where backyard gardening, knowing your farmer, getting back into the CSA, getting back as close as you possibly can to soil systems and making sure the soil was a part of the journey of the food that's on your plate so that those nutrients become available. And if that's lacking to you or you're not connected to the soil directly, having that ion as an ingredient in your recipes is actually a powerful tool. It just takes anywhere from 5 milliliters in a single serving to a couple tablespoons into a family-sized serving to make those nutrients more available to the family, to make the medicine and the food available to the bodies that you're about to nourish over these holidays. So that's a cool 1-2 punch of create the diversity on the plate and reconnect that diversity to the soil systems, and you find nourishment at levels that humans have been lacking for generations. And so it's just an absolute joy to watch this body of work of yours come to light here. Give us a little bit of sense of the joy that it's been watching this connect to the global community as the book has hit.
It truly has been a joy. I set out with an intention to help people have a field guide to take good care of themselves and feel empowered to do so and have agency in their health. And I'm surprised how well it's actually working. It's been now a few months where I'm starting to get feedback from patients that tell me, I'm only eating food from your cookbook and I feel 10 years younger and my knees don't hurt and I feel vital again. Or hearing from my parents' friends who, for the first time in their life, they're evaluating their pantry with different eyes and they're taking things out. And it's not that the information hasn't been there, because it has been, but for whatever reason, I'm delivering it in a fashion that's hitting people in a certain way, people that are resonant with it. It's not going to hit everybody in that way. It's been exciting to see my book make itself around the country, around the globe. It's been so exciting to see my colleagues say, thank you so much for creating the guide I've been dreaming of for the last 20 years. For some of my elders in my field to say, thank you for being like an honest pioneer in our medicine. And that's particularly exciting for me to be seen by my teachers as now a leader. I've never considered myself a leader. I've never wanted to be a leader. I mean, other than maybe on the dance floor to get everyone in on the party. But I've never been vocal about my desire to help a larger community until I, finally finished my book set and wanted to really step up to what it deserved. And what it deserves is to be widely spread so people can take good care of themselves and know that they're worth it. And man, it's been such a joy to see how it's landing for people. I mean, I've had people in tears about it. And I just want to be able to help as many people as I can. And there's only so much I can do one-to-one. So now I can lay this out and say, here, you have the information. And of course, it's not everything, but it's a really good start. It's a strong foundation for people that don't know where to go in their health and have been looking for resources and support. Perhaps they want to have more authority with their doctors and ask for what they need and what they want. And now they can come from this place of knowledge where they're asking with authority, saying, I want this lab test. I want you to help me in this particular way. And that feels really good to be able to support people in that way.
It's beautiful. Well, I'm excited for all of you to dig in and Nourish Me Kitchen. It's going to be exciting for you guys to take a look at this piece of work that has been decades in the making. And for all of you that are practitioners, coaches, nurse practitioners, doctors out there, you can't believe what a resource this will be in your clinics and in your offerings to the public. And it is kind of what we all dream of as practitioners who have become aware that the gut health and its foundation in our nourishment is critical to the outcomes of our patients. We crave, the opportunity to put something in the hands of patients that will bring them that deep knowledge-based encyclopedia on nourishment and kind of that reconnect to the nature that loves us and is capable of bringing about such a revolution in health, revolution in human resilience in the face of all of the toxicity that we now live within. So an honor to be with you, Erika. It's been a joy to be a part of the project. I've had the blessing of writing the foreword for the book, and so you guys can dive a little deeper into that if you're interested in seeing some more of my thoughts around the project and around the importance of your kitchen, especially on these holidays. So dive in on the project and enjoy a resource. And some of you probably have family members that could desperately use this information, and it may be an interesting way to gift them over the holidays or in this new year as people start to dig deeper into their awareness of the need for a health revolution in January. This can be a huge piece of the puzzle for them. So as if to those around you that are needing that reconnect, here's a resource for you. Erika, it's been a thrill to be a part of witnessing your journey
Thank
with
you,
this
Zach.
launch of this resource. Thank you for being with us all that tuned in here, and have the happiest of holidays. You can go to the link tree above and find the connection to the book. There's also a discount code available, Zach Bush 10, I think is the discount code for you to get a discount on the book there. So Zach Bush, ZACHBUSH 10, get you a discount on the book and get your family connected, get your loved ones connected to Earth and the nourishing sources that it has. There's also in the link tree connection to intelligence of nature if you want to start adding the soil nutrient intelligence back into the foods that you're preparing as a resource to the family. Intelligenceofnature.com can get you connected there. So both those links in the link tree above. And there it is. I'm so glad you have it right there in front of you. This book is absolutely beautiful on the countertop. It's beautiful in my kitchen to have it connecting us. So thank you for the tome of effort and decades of work to make this thing real for all of us. Thrilled to be with all of you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year.